What would you do if your parents had to sell everything just to bring you into a new country and the person next to you grew up without either parents around? I'm Abel, this is David, and we're the founders of A&D Asset Group. Between us, we've built a portfolio of 9 Airbnb properties here in Manchester, now doing us over £20,000 a month. But it didn't start like that. This is how we went from warehouse shifts, failed businesses, and losing £6,000 to building something that actually changed our families' lives. I was almost left behind in Nigeria. My parents only had enough money to bring 3 of my siblings to the UK, and I wasn't one of them. The plan was for my dad to come first, get settled, then come back for me later. But in the final week, he changed his mind. He said he couldn't go through with it. He couldn't bring everyone else and leave me behind. So they sold the house, they sold the car, they sold almost everything they had just to get me a plane ticket, and that plane ticket was mine. And I think about that a lot because that wasn't normal, that was a sacrifice. But when I got here, I wasn't exactly making them proud. I got kicked out of school, ended up in a PRU, I was a class clown, not taking anything seriously, no structure, no blueprint, just figuring things out as I went along.
So my story is I come from a broken home. My dad was always working and my mom was in a different country. Not through any fault of their own, but it meant I had to grow up fast and become independent very, very early on. I was constantly moving around, going from child managers to family members, never really settled and never really feeling like I truly belonged anywhere. That kind of upbringing does something to you. It makes you feel different, like you don't quite fit in. I was always the black sheep. While everyone around me was following the same path, going to college, going to university, the typical 9 to 5, that just never felt right to me. But I still went to university anyways. Not because I wanted to, but just to tick a box and do what was expected of me. I finished it, but deep down, I knew it wasn't for me.
I tried a lot of things and most of them didn't work. At uni, I started selling clothes. I was making money, but I blew it all. And guess what? I spent it on designer and a lifestyle, and I even bought a Mercedes that I didn't even need. Then I got into penny stocks. I put about £6,000 into a stock called Premier African Minerals, thinking it was my big break, and I lost it all. After that, it was back to reality. Warehouse shifts, managers talking down on me, hospitality jobs, and just going through the motions. I even started an exterior cleaning business. I made money, but it was still trading time for money. Then I tried switching paths completely, got into software development, did a whole course, but I couldn't even land a job after I finished it. It was like nothing I tried was really working.
So then came the 9 to 5. I really hated it. Waking up every day, it felt like I was stuck in the same loop, doing the same thing that didn't excite me. You know, it didn't fulfill me, and it felt like I wasn't building anything meaningful. You know, being an eldest sibling added even more pressure. I felt like I had to figure some things out. Like I had to set the example and make something of myself. So what did I do is I started trying different things out, such as Amazon FBA, dropshipping, trading, and to be honest, none of them worked out. I ended up failing, failed again and again and again. I also went through different jobs such as delivery driver, retail assistant, hospitality worker, and I hated each and every single one of them. Not because I didn't want to work, but just because none of them really added anything to me. None of it felt like my purpose. But you know what, looking back, that period of trying and failing was necessary for me. It showed me what I didn't want, and it allowed me to push myself closer to finding out what I did actually want.
So then I hit a point where I was just tired. Nothing was working for me, and I was genuinely thinking about going back and quitting, going back to warehouse jobs full time, just settling. But something in me, it didn't sit right with me, to be honest. So then I came across Airbnb, and at first I didn't even believe it because I was thinking that how can people actually make money from a property that they don't own? It sounds absurd, innit? So I went all in, weeks of research. I was doing YouTube, I was doing Google, anything that I could find. Then I just got stuck in. I started calling landlords and I was getting rejected again and again and again. People were telling me no. People were saying, oh no, we don't allow that, subletting's illegal, I'm not interested. But guess what I did? I kept on going. And it wasn't until around the 15th landlord that I actually contacted that I got my first ever yes. It was an estate agent, I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was just the best feeling ever. And then the second night, my first booking came in. I got money from something I didn't even own, and that's when it clicked. I was like, this is it, I found the golden gem.
And you know, it's funny, you know, when I think about how this all really started between me and Abel, we had already had history, you know, from childhood before any of this even started. So we grew up together, we went to the same college, went to the same uni, and then our unis are actually very close to each other. So there was always, you know, that sort of connection there between both of us. So it was just very easy to connect, you know, but more than that, you know, we had the same mindset, and this was very, very important to us. We weren't really interested in just doing the normal route everyone else was taking. We both wanted more for ourselves. We both wanted to build something of our own, and you know, it was something that actually gave us freedom. And at the time, you know, Abel already had 3 properties and I was just building my own path too. But you know, instead of doing things separately, it just made sense just to come together, put our minds together and create something, right? And there wasn't this big complicated business meeting or anything like that. Like I said, we grew up together, so it was very, very natural. We had a conversation, we spoke to each other, we understood each other, and it was just clear as day that it was gonna make sense, you know, and we were both very serious about our growth. So the conversation was very, very simple. We both saw the opportunity, we both had the same drive, like I said, the same mindset, and ultimately we both knew that we wanted to work together to create something, and we've been able to scale much faster than doing it alone. And to be honest, that's just really how we started, to be honest. Not forced and not planned for years. So it was just 2 people, you know, who knew each other very, very well, shared the same mindset, and decided just to build something together. You know, just 2 young people, and that's it.
So I think me and David, we've been best friends since we were kids, right? So when this started picking up, it wasn't like just bringing in any random stranger. We already had the same mindset, we had the same goals, and the truth is we both wanted more. And at the time, I had a few properties running, and the conversation was pretty simple. I just said to David, let's build something together. And that's how A&D Asset Group was formed, pretty much. So what makes it work is how different we are. David's more kind of like the front end with the energy, and he has the conversations, making things happen. And I'm more like the back end, so I do the systems, the structures, and just making sure everything's ran properly, to be honest. And when we tried to scale, everything started breaking. You know, we was having issues with the cleaners, we was having issues with guests breaking things, no real systems. It was pretty much just not as smooth as you would think. And yeah, I was on my own pretty much, and I would have burnt out without this guy here. But obviously together, we took a step back and we fixed things and we actually built it properly. And I think that decision that we made changed everything. We stopped chasing deals and we started building a real business. And that's how we went from 3 properties to 9. And the biggest thing as well that we learned was, you know, you don't scale Airbnb with more properties, right? You scale it with better systems, with better communications, and that's pretty much how you scale the business, to be honest.
So, you know, one of the biggest challenges we have faced was, like Abel said, once we first started scaling, you know, taking the business from 3 properties to 9, it was not easy at all. Like Abel said, everything at the beginning was very, very manual. We was doing everything ourselves, cleaning, guest messaging, the coordination, the check-ins, you name it, right? And, you know, it worked at such a small level, but as things, you know, grew, as we scaled from 3 to 9, you know, those systems just weren't working anymore, right? So that's when everything just had to change, right? So we realized that we couldn't do it ourselves anymore. And honestly, that's not something I could have handled alone. You know, this guy helped me, you know, having someone alongside of me just made things, you know, a lot easier. It made a huge difference. And as we've scaled, as we've been able to build real systems, we've stopped guessing and we've actually started building a structure and processes for communications, for the systems for our cleaners, and just automating, you know, the whole business, which makes everything a lot easier for us day by day. And because, you know, there's 2 of us, we've been able to just delegate properly. So we've split up different tasks, different responsibilities, and we've been able to hold each other accountable while still, you know, actually growing the business instead of just keeping it running, right? So that stage definitely taught me a lot. You know, it taught me that, you know, growth isn't just about doing more, it's about, you know, building better and having, you know, the right people around you that, you know, makes all the difference. So I'm very, very grateful.
So for me, it's bigger than just business. I always go back to where it first started. And where's that? My parents were this close to leaving me behind because they didn't have enough money. And now they can actually see that decision turned out to be the best decision that they could have ever made. And not just necessarily in regards to money, but in terms of the person that I've become. Because if you knew me back then, getting kicked out of school and not being focused, you would not have expected me to build something like this. But that's why it means so much to me, because it's just about proving people wrong. Everyone that's ever doubted me, it's about proving why my situation does not define me. It's about my responsibility, taking responsibility for my actions and making sure my family's good. Making sure that the next generation doesn't ever have to start from zero like I did. And it's basically about just building something that actually lasts. And the reason we share this, we're not trying to brag, we're not trying to show you that this is what we are. It's just because there's people that are watching this right now that are in the same position. You know, you're capable, but you're just lacking a sense of direction. So if that's for you, this is not motivation. It's just showing you that this is possible in this business. When you actually lock in and you build something properly, the sky is the limit for you.
So for me, pretty much the same. You know, it was always bigger than just making money. It was actually about, you know, breaking a cycle for me and my future family. I didn't want them to go through anything that I went through. You know, the instability, the uncertainty, having to just grow up too fast, which I had to do, right? And I knew that had to end with me, essentially. So that's what keeps me going every single day. That's what drives me every single day. So as we built and figured things out, you know, we realized that there are so many people out there, such as you guys, in the exact same position that we were in, feeling stuck, trying different things out, failing, trying different businesses out, and just not knowing which direction to take. So that's why we actually did start mentoring people and to help people who didn't have the blueprint. So people who are trying to figure it out on their own, just like we were as we grew, right? So because we know what that feels like, and you know, we want to help people, we know what it takes to get out of it, and we've been able to get out of that situation. So if you're watching this right now and you feel stuck just like we were, like you're not where you're meant to be, like you have a purpose and you know you're capable of more, this channel is for you, trust me. So listen guys, if our story resonated with you, if you saw yourself in any part of what we have just shared, this channel being built for someone just like you, okay? We're gonna be dropping videos every single week, breaking down everything that we went through and how we were able to scale from 1 property to 9 properties, you know, the real stuff, no fluff. So just do us a favor, just hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and just make sure you're ready for what we have for you guys. Just leave a comment and just tell us where you're at right now in your property journey, and we read every single comment, so we want to see what you guys have to say. So we'll see you in the next one. So make sure you subscribe guys, and like I said, turn your bell notifications on for weekly videos, and just comment exactly where you are in your journey right now. So watch the next video on how to start an Airbnb business in the UK here in Manchester without owning property. We'll see you guys later. Boom.